We are in Proverbs chapter 24. Last week we got to verse 13, and we need to start on verse 14, but because 13 is necessary for 14, we'll read 13 again. My son, eat honey because it is good, and the honeycomb which is sweet to your taste. And as we said, this is connected to the next verse. It's not that, have you tried honey? Honey's pretty good. Why don't you see if you like it or not? Because it's like, is he going to fill the whole book up with things like this? And chocolate. Did you try chocolate? But no, in verse 14, so shall the knowledge of wisdom be to your soul. All right, it's making, instead of comparing wisdom to greater than rubies or like gold and refined gold and the like, he has changed it to that of, now just a different analogy, of like honey. It's going to be sweet to your soul. If you have found it, there is prospect and your hope will not be cut off. All right, now this is an important thing in this. This is an important point in this. This is more than just telling you or telling his son that wisdom is like honey and consume it, which is really what the analogy goes into. And in consume, that word, gain wisdom. But he says, if you found it, there is prospect, and your hope will not be cut off. There is prospect. That there is a hope in this. There is a future in this. There is something that is good to be gained by this. Your future can be very good, regardless of what happens. Now, that may sound funny, but as we have made mention before, you cannot control what happens to you in this life. It can come from any kind of direction. But how you respond to it, when there is wisdom, there is prospect regardless of what happens. Even death. Even with death, there is prospect and there is hope, because this life is not the end at all. This life is only the doorstep to something far greater. And this is the testing ground we're in. But there is no prospect. There is no prospect in wickedness. And we just come down to verse 20. So chapter 24, verse 20. For there will be no prospect for the evil man. The lamp of the wicked will be put out. Now we'll come back to that in just a second. But there's no hope for him being wicked. Wickedness does not bring hope. Righteousness does. Now can the wicked man turn from his wicked ways? Yeah. And in doing so, now he's got prospect. Now, he's still going to have the problems of his past. You can't shake yourself from that. A man who's in prison because of murder, can he turn from his wicked ways? Yes. Does that mean he gets to go out of prison? No, it doesn't. A man who has destroyed his family, his children hate him, his wife has left him, he's destroyed his family. Can he turn from his wicked ways, from adultery? Yes. Does that bring everybody back to him? No, it doesn't. It doesn't do it. But there is only prospect when you have found wisdom and knowledge. Now we go to verse 15. Do not lie in wait, O wicked man, against the dwelling of the righteous. Do not plunder his resting place. Now we have two verses, 15 and 16. And they're also going to go with 17 and 18, though it's hitting the other side of the coin. All right, but don't lie in wait against the righteous. All right, in James 5 and 6, you have condemned, you have murdered the just. He does not resist you. The innocent has no means to resist. The innocent, the powerful can do whatever they want to against the powerless. And that goes into a type of immoral behavior of, I will do what I want to do because I can do it. I did it because I could do it. That's a very bad reason. That is extraordinarily corrupt, to say that you did something simply because you could do it. Because you could do it, I guess it's okay to do it? Well, I doubt you would take that reasoning very far out of some sort of a selfish thing and let somebody do what they want to do to you. All right? But we have this do not lie in wait against the dwelling of the righteous. For a righteous man may fall 7 times and rise again, but the wicked shall fall by calamity. There is that lack of prospect. There it is. God will protect the righteous. The righteous can rise because of righteousness, and the wicked will fall because of wickedness. And in Micah 7:8, we have the saying, or we have the statement, when I fall, I will rise. And yes, the righteous may fall 7 times and rise again because there is prospect there. Wisdom works every time it is tried. Wisdom always and always gives a prospect, always gives hope. But the wicked shall fall by calamity. That is a promise. In Ezekiel 7:13, no one will strengthen himself who lives in iniquity. There's only corrupting yourself. That's it. A tree that is rotting on the ground will not strengthen itself by continuing the rot. It's not. And likewise, a person who is corrupt is not going to strengthen themselves by corruption. They're only going to harm themselves. They're only going to make themselves make a bigger home for and a more comfortable home for Satan. That's all you're doing. And there is greater and greater wickedness, and there will be a greater and greater fall and calamity from it. And the wickedness is a failed endeavor from the start. It fails. You're on the path that leads to calamity. But change that path, and now things are entirely different. Now we come to verse 17. This is kind of the other side of the coin in this. First, wicked man, don't lie in wait against the righteous, the dwelling of the righteous. Now, here in 17, do not rejoice when your enemy falls, and do not let your heart be glad when he stumbles. All right, that's like the opposite of you weren't responsible for the fall or the stumbling, but you don't rejoice over it. This is not for you to do, as a matter of fact. That there may be an understanding of, they have now found out where that took them, and it is a place that led to calamity. But you don't rejoice over that. God says in Ezekiel 33:11, I have no pleasure in the death of the wicked. Well, if he has no pleasure in the death of the wicked, then should we? All right, there is to be a love for your enemy. And no, that's not, there's nothing wrong. Okay, the question is, we can't even think he got what he deserved. Yeah, you can, because that's justice. Justice was finally done, but that's not rejoicing. And it's also not rejoicing to say that this person, because of what has now occurred, they can no longer be a problem to these people or to yourself or anything like that. But there is an enormous difference between God, who sees Nineveh. We're going into Bob's territory. He's through with Jonah now, but there's a difference between God seeing Nineveh as wicked and wanting to change them, and Noah seeing them as wicked and wanting them destroyed. Jonah. Who did I say? Oh, Noah. Well, Noah shouldn't do it either, but Noah predates Nineveh. Yeah, thank you. And but Jonah, knowing the wickedness of Nineveh as well, but wanting them destroyed. There is a big difference in that. One is to have someone who is failing and you want them to come back. All right? There is a love that is there. I would rather have a Nineveh as a brother in righteousness than Nineveh destroyed for their wickedness. All right, there's a big difference in those two. And we should, while we can have relief, and that's just a natural thing. Someone who has been a persecutor, someone who has just caused all this wickedness around, where when they have been stopped, there's nothing wrong with the sigh of relief in that. Because one, God has just been glorified, first off, that you will not, you can't sow wickedness and reap blessings. You can't do it. And God is not going to be mocked in any of that. You reap what you sow. And don't rejoice, don't let your heart be glad when he stumbles. Now we come to verse 18. Lest the Lord see it, and it displease him, and he turn away his wrath from him. Now, I think there's more to this than just don't rejoice because you want him to get more of what's coming to him. And when you start rejoicing, God's going to turn away his wrath, and it wasn't as much as you had hoped for. I think there's something else in this, in that he turns his wrath to you. I think that's what it comes down to, is he's turning his wrath to the one who should not be rejoicing. Matthew 5:44, love your enemies, bless those who curse you, do good to those who hate you. And I know personally that's hard to do. That's hard to do. And it is something that Christ is showing us an example that he in fact did it. All the way to the cross. What's one of the things that he said while on the cross? What's one of the things? Father, forgive them, they know not what they do. All right? Is that to be an example? Were they truly his enemy? Yes, quite. But he's still blessing them. He can say those words to them, and they didn't even ask him to. There was none of them standing there saying, since you're the Christ, forgive us of our sins. Not a single one of them did that. That is, if you are the Christ, come down off the cross. We'll believe you then. All right, others he could save? Let him save himself. They didn't say, let him save us. They didn't say that. They let him save himself. But he is, this is trying to completely destroy him. Not just bodily. This is emotionally. This is to break his soul right there. Because the scourging and the beating and now being nailed to a cross and put upright on that cross, they've already done him a great harm physically, but they're also doing it in every way they can.
One of the thieves on the cross did say, come, save us. And the other one says, well, we did this.
You have one. You have one who's still mocking him, and then you have the other one who has turned, actually, And he rebukes his fellow thief. And even the thief on the cross actually didn't say, in so many words, forgive me. He didn't say it. He said, remember me when you come into your kingdom. That's what he said. Now, that could imply, forgive me. It could. He doesn't say it. But Christ says, today you will be with me in paradise. All right, but because both of them are going to die, they're both going to be in paradise, in Hades. The other one, unrepentant and still rebuking or still mocking. And do you want that to be your last words? You know you're going to die. You know you're going to die that day. Talk about the clock is ticking. It is ticking. And it's the final seconds, final minutes of your life. The Jews are going to insist that they die before the sun sets because the Sabbath is going to be there, and they want them all dead. And Christ, while they break the legs of the thieves so that they will die, with Christ he was already dead. You have the soldier that thrusts the spear into his side, and yeah, he is dead. But Christ is willing to forgive. He is willing to forgive. And that can be a very difficult thing to do. It's easy to forgive someone who never sinned against you. That's easy. And it's easy also to apologize for something you didn't do. That's easy as well, just talking about easy things. But when someone has done something to you, and you've got emotion involved in it, you have been personally offended, so you are the victim of this, that's when it becomes more difficult. But Christ did it. Christ did it as an example, and Christ tells us that we are to do it as well. Now, let's go to verse 19. Do not fret because of evildoers, nor be envious of the wicked. Now, we need to read verse 20 as well. For there will be no prospect for the evil man. The lamp of the wicked will be put out. There's no point in being envious of the wicked. And this is saying two things. Don't worry about the wicked, don't fret about the wicked, and don't envy him either. All right, you're going to be protected by God. God is going to, when everything is done, when judgment is done, there will be justice. And God is not going to be swayed by anybody. It is going to be His justice, exactly as He has spelled out. No variation, no haziness, no sort of thing of where you're not quite sure how this law is supposed to be enforced or if it's even supposed to be enforced. Everything is going to be absolutely certain. But here also, don't be envious of the wicked. All right? The wicked seem to be getting away with a lot. In the debate or the argumentation that goes on in the book of Job, who has been his friends, who are not exactly the best of friends at this point, they are telling him all these things happen because you have sinned, and you have sinned on a large scale. There's no other way to look at it. And Job, in response to that, talks about wicked individuals who they aren't seeing the same things. They seem to live life carefree. They seem to live, certainly not what Job is going through. They seem to be, everything is going well. Their children are still alive. They still have their home. They still have their property. They still have all those things. And so it would look as though they are someone to envy. All right, but they're not. Because what they are doing is You could think of it as, what was the saying, take a long walk off a short pier? If you'll remember that, that's a long time ago I heard that. But it's someone who's about to take the walk off that pier. All right? They don't realize where that pier leads, and it leads to deep water is where it leads. And that you don't envy anybody doing that. Proverbs 10:27 says the years of the wicked will be shortened. Now that does not mean that all the wicked will die very young. It does not mean that. But I take it as fact that a wicked person might have lived longer than they did if they had not been wicked. That's the way I take it. And it is and I have just seen it, not firsthand, but I've seen it, of those who are of the incredibly wicked, horribly wicked. Yeah, they're not going to be living a long life at all. God's going to put an end to that. Someone who is just every sort of vile thing, every kind of just unconscionable things of abominable things. All right, they are going to be stopped. And just by way of looking, let's go to as a way of explaining some things. Matthew chapter 25. No, Matthew chapter 24. And verse 22, Matthew 24, verse 22. And in Matthew 24, Christ is speaking about the destruction of the temple. It hasn't happened yet. He's prophesying about it. He's already said, verse 2, and Jesus said to them, do you not see all these things? They're showing in the buildings of the temple. Do you not see all these things? Assuredly, I say to you, not one stone shall be left here upon another that shall not be thrown down. All right? Did that come to pass? Because one can think of that figuratively. Okay, yeah, it's going to be knocked down. Okay. Well, actually, that is literal. One stone is not going to be found on top of another one. It's going to be entirely dismantled. And that does come to pass. And when you know why the Romans did it that way, they could have been satisfied with burning the thing and walking away. But in fact, they dismantled it for a very good motive. Because the gold that was in the temple melted and it's getting in between the stones. What would you do? All right? You'd start taking those stones apart bit by bit. It'd be like an easy gold mine is what it would be like. And he says that's what's going to happen. Now, our lesson is not on Matthew chapter 24, but I do want to look at this. Verse 22, and unless those days were shortened, no flesh would be saved, but for the elect's sake, those days will be shortened. What does he mean by that? There's going to be extraordinary violence, and he's going to put it to the end. There's going to be this extraordinary wickedness that goes on there, and he's going to put it to an end. Because if he allows it to escalate, it's going to even kill the elect, and he's not going to do that. It's going to go into a greater area and take innocent lives. He's not going to do that. And it will be shortened. And so we can know that with Proverbs, going back to where we are in Proverbs chapter 24, but in 10 and verse 27, the years of the wicked will be shortened. And depending on what that wickedness is will depend on how short it is. I mean, that is just the truth. Now, just reading verse 20, for there is no prospect for the evil man. The lamp of the wicked will be put out, and there is nothing to fret or envy here. You're envying the fact that his lamp's going to be put out. You're envying the fact that He has no prospect. There's also, if his lamp is going to be put out, there's no need to fret over that person. Proverbs 1 and 27 also in 10 and 25 speaks of the wickedness or wicked individuals coming to an end. 10:25 is the destruction comes like a whirlwind. It arrives, and you can't stop it. Now we go to verse 21. My son, fear the Lord and the King. Do not associate with those given to change. All right, so this is one of those where these are connected. These are couplets. These are connected. That the second phrase in this has to be linked to the first one. There has to be something in the first that is meant for the second, and something in the second that's got to be connected to the first. It's got to. Fear the Lord and the King. Do not associate with those given to change. What kind of change would that be? All right, it would have to be concerning the Lord, and that would be His doctrine, His laws. It'd have to be. It would have to be. Something of concerning His word, it would have to be. And fear the Lord and the King. And of course, that's civil authority there. Do not associate with those given to change. So what sort of change would that be? Well, in Jude 11 does speak of the rebellion of Korah. And we could go back and look at that rebellion that was of Korah. Was Korah given to change? Did he want to change something? Yes. Did it have anything to do with the Lord and the King? Well, there was no king, but there was the Lord and there was His prophet. And that they did not want Moses, or Korah specifically at least, did not want Moses to have the authority that he had. Korah thought that he should have authority. All right, well, that didn't go well for Korah at all. And matter of fact, it was there. Do you remember how Korah died? It's in a way, hope that never happens to me. There's a lot of things I hope never happen to me. The earth opened up and swallowed him, and he's gone. All right, that's the end of Korah. So this change isn't just a thing of like any kind of a personal development, a personal change, or anything like that. It has nothing to do with that. This has to do with that of the Lord and the King. Verse 22 is also connected to this. And it talks about those given a change. For their calamity will rise suddenly. And who knows the ruin those two can bring? It's connected to verse 21. Who are those two? Jehovah and the King, or civil authority. All right? Now, someone like Korah, and he's not the only one we can name in history, but someone like Korah, why would he want to be in place of Moses, or at least to begin with, equal to Moses? Why would he want that? Except he had some sort of plan. He had some sort of ambition. I don't think it was rebellion for its own sake, though that is a thing. That is a thing. It doesn't matter what the cause. If there's rioting in the streets, I'll take it up. Yeah, I'll be part of the mob. Being part of the mob is there is a love for that. It doesn't matter what today's rebellion is. If it means I get to kick in doors and smash windows and burn cars, yeah, that is for me. I am with you. That's called sons of worthlessness.
Wasn't Korah's whole family?
Yes, Korah's family, and you want to get away from that whole area. And there was a warning. You don't want to be standing near him, because of what was going to happen. But yeah, everything that belonged to Korah went, and what a horrible thing. And God meant. You're not okay. So we who knows the ruin those two can bring? Well, God can bring about unimaginable ruin, and where we could not have even predicted He would have done that. And here is someone like Korah. We can look at others through history of where they wanted a change. But they wanted, and we can look at it religiously, wanting religious change, that is taking the doctrine of Christ or taking the law of Moses. All of it came from God. All right? Law of Moses legitimately started and finished by God, came to a close at the crucifixion of Christ. All right? But those who want to change civil authority, or those who want to change religious authority, it's doing the same thing in that they are looking for some kind, now some of them just may be crazy, but looking for some kind of ambition, selfish ambition, there is no doubt, looking because of arrogance, maybe because of just for the advantages they would get. And where is all this going to lead? Well, it may not lead very far at all, except to calamity. And the thing is people such as, we'll bring out some names, such as Lenin, not John Lennon, but Lenin as in Trotsky, as in Stalin. Lenin and also Hitler, both of them thrived on this idea of revolution, this idea of it. And it wasn't for the good of the people at all. They didn't care anything about the people. They didn't care anything at all. They didn't care who died. They didn't care. No compassion really from either of them. But both of them knew that once you get into power, all right, the day of revolution, long live the revolution, they did not mean that. It meant once they got into power, there will be no more changes. There'll be no more revolution. There'll be nobody else out in the street demanding for another change. That's it. It's now locked into place. Everything is locked. And here is an understanding that those who are wanting change, well, you have to ask the question, what sort of change? What change are you looking at? Because if it's the doctrine of Christ, you got a problem, and the problem is with Christ. All right, you got a problem there. No one has the right at all to change the doctrine of Christ. Now, we just go to Revelation chapter 22 and verse 18. This is not the first place for this. For I testify, beginning of verse 18, for I testify to everyone who hears the words of the prophecy of this book. If anyone adds to the things, God will add to him the plagues that are written in this book. And if anyone takes away from the words of the book of this prophecy, God shall take away his part from the book of life, from the holy city, and from the things which are written in this book. Now, these are some of the last words. All right, that's verses 18 and 19, verses 20 and 21, and that's the end of the Bible. I don't think that 18 and 19 only refer to changing the book of Revelation. I think it refers to all Revelation. Everything going back to Genesis. And if we go to Proverbs chapter 30, beginning in verse 5, every word of God is pure. He is a shield to those who put their trust in Him. Do not add to His words, lest He rebuke you and you be found a liar. All right, so here we have similar words, not as dramatic, but it's the same principle found in Proverbs. We can also find it in Deuteronomy in a couple of places. And man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of God. So if I live by every word that proceeds from the mouth of God, by implication, does that mean I can change those words? Because once I change those words, they're not the words of God anymore. I've added to them. All right? I'm not living off the Word of God anymore. I'm living off my altered version of it. And that's no good. Now, here is, let's just read verse 22 again. For their calamity will rise suddenly, because it's going to be Jehovah God, or it's going to be civil government who's going to put an end to it. He's going to put an end to it. And who knows the ruin those two can bring. And they can. All right, with a king has authority over life and death. Even if it was done without any justice, he still has that. He still has that. And I'm talking about the kings of the ancient past. Saul, he killed an entire village of the Levites. Well, what did they do? They didn't do anything. They were Levites, and he was angry that a priest happened to have helped David. So he's going to even the priest that helped David is an innocent man, because David is an innocent man. But there is calamity that can arise, and it can arise suddenly from this. Now, verse 23. These things also belong to the wise. It is not good to show partiality in judgment. Now, we can look in several places in Proverbs, 17 and verse 13, in 15, 23, 26, also 21 in verse 7. Similar idea in that. Malachi 2 and 9 says, you have not kept my ways, but have shown partiality in the law. And there is any number of ways that you can show partiality. It's not a one-way street. Or it's not just a path that one can only show partiality in a certain way. What is the partiality mentioned in the book of James? You remember that? It's a rich man comes in, you give him the best place to sit. You treat him like an honored guest. A poor man comes in, you're not going to treat him the same. All right? Here, sit at my footstool. You can sit there. That's good enough for you. All right? That's showing partiality, and God does not show that type of partiality. But someone can also turn that over, of where they have something against the rich and they're showing partiality now to the poor. You can do the same thing, just in a different direction. And in fact, we see in Exodus 23 and verse 3 and Leviticus 19:15, you shall not show partiality to the poor. All right? Nor do you you don't work against them simply because they're poor. You don't work for them concerning judgment simply because they're poor. You don't do it. Now, a poor man who steals, and we have this from earlier in the book. I'm sure of it. I tell you, I have trouble sometimes knowing if we're past a certain point or before a certain point. But that of someone who steals because they're hungry, everybody understands why they did it, but they still have to pay it back. All right, they still have to do it. They must. And while someone can certainly show mercy to the poor, what about the one that was stolen against? What about them? how is it that they don't get justice? Well, they should. They should get justice. And you don't show partiality. Proverbs 18 and verse 5, it is not good to show partiality to the wicked or to overthrow the righteous in judgment. All right, so someone who is wicked, partiality could be given to them simply because there's a bribe. Partiality could be given to them simply because they're intimidating. And you don't want something happen to you for making them and their friends angry. You still show no partiality to it. And there is, like I said, there's any which way you can show partiality. Any which way. I remember when I was small, I was on a playground. And it was just a bunch of kids, didn't know who they were. And on one day, while I was at a playground, there was this bigger kid than me. And he had red hair and he had freckles. And he was not nice to me. And I don't know why. Obviously, I was smaller, I was weaker, I was slower, I was all those things than he was. And he just made my day bad, and I had to leave the playground. All right. Following day or so, there was a kid, red hair and freckles, and I immediately distanced myself from him, thinking, "Oh, I knew it's not the same kid. I knew that. I knew it wasn't the same kid." But red hair and freckles. And when I saw he's actually treating me well, I thought, oh, well, yeah, okay, this is different. He's entirely different. He's entirely different. That I can't just reject him simply because of the way he looks. Simply because someone else who has some of his features treated me bad. All right? That, yeah, we can be friends. The other guy, he didn't want to be friends, but we can, in fact, be friends. And there is, to show this partiality in judgment is to, in fact, it's not good. It's not good at all. There is a wickedness that is in it. And it doesn't matter how you justify it. It doesn't matter what it happens to be, rich, poor, someone who looks like somebody else, or it doesn't matter. Speaks in a certain way, it doesn't matter. There is to be no partiality at all. Now, we'll just go ahead and close for today. There's things that I would like to, in verse 24. 24 is connected to 23, but it's going to take us too long. So we will continue next week. And I want to thank everybody for being with us.